Premier ministre, pourquoi est-ce plus long que prévu pour le budget 4 novembre? Pourquoi plus long que prévu pour un budget? 4 novembre. Pourquoi est-ce plus long que prévu pour un budget le 4 novembre? Pourquoi les Canadiens?
C'est approprié. Non, c'est approprié. C'est seulement 6 mois dans le nouveau gouvernement. C'est approprié. Mais on fait beaucoup de choses avec les grands projets nationaux, avec Maison du Canada et le Fonds stratégique. Alors, nous agissons. Il y aura un budget au début du mois de novembre.
Et le déficit?
Bien, écoutez, le Mexique, c'est un partenaire très important pour le Canada. Je pense que quand j'étais là avec la ministre Sanan, quand on a rencontré la présidente du Mexique, si je ne me trompe pas, si vous mettiez l'économie du Canada et l'économie du Mexique, on ferait partie des grandes économies mondiales. Je pense qu'on serait la 4e économie mondiale avec à peu près la moitié de la population des États-Unis. Et ça fait des années où, je dirais, autant du côté mexicain, on s'est tourné vers les États-Unis, autant du côté canadien, on s'est tourné vers les États-Unis. Et là, je pense que c'est le temps de faire le pont, c'est-à-dire de s'assurer qu'on ait plus d'échanges commerciaux entre le Canada et le Mexique, regarder nos chaînes d'approvisionnement dans l'automobile, dans le secteur, par exemple, de l'agriculture. Il y a énormément de... Par exemple, dans le secteur de l'énergie, quand j'étais avec la présidente du Mexique, on parlait de la résilience énergétique. Puis je vous dirais, on comprend encore mieux maintenant le nexus entre la sécurité énergétique, la sécurité économique et la sécurité nationale. Et pendant que le premier ministre sera, lui, au Mexique, moi, je vais être en Europe parce que, comme je vous disais, pour une des premières fois de l'histoire, le Canada a été invité formellement à la réunion des ministres des Finances de l'Europe en compagnie de la Norvège, de l'Ukraine et du Royaume-Uni. Donc, c'est une des premières fois où le Canada, maintenant, va faire partie de ces réunions-là régulières avec les ministres des Finances de l'Europe. Et ça démontre à quel point, avec la stratégie du premier ministre, qu'on diversifie nos relations, justement, regarder autant du côté du Mexique que du côté de l'Europe.
Est-ce qu'il y aura un front commun avec le Mexique pour la renégociation de la CO?
Bien, on a toujours avantage à travailler ensemble. On l'a fait par le passé. Et là, comme vous avez vu, il y a la revue. Bon, écoutez, moi, je pense que ce qu'on doit regarder, c'est les intérêts mutuels qu'on a. Je pense que cet ensemble économique est très important. Vous savez, quand vous prenez le Canada, les États-Unis et le Mexique, c'est vraiment l'un des ensembles économiques les plus importants au monde. Alors, comment on peut s'assurer de préserver les chaînes d'approvisionnement, la compétitivité, l'innovation? Parce que c'est vraiment ça qui a fait de l'Amérique du Nord comme un, j'allais dire, des blocs économiques les plus importants.
Pourquoi novembre?
Well, I would say it's the best date if you look at the parliamentary calendar to make sure that we can present it and then that members could also go in their own constituency and talk about it.
Vous auriez pu faire ça en octobre. Vous avez une semaine de relâche en octobre aussi. Pourquoi?
Je pense que c'est la meilleure date dans le calendrier parlementaire parce qu'il faut regarder les différents travaux parlementaires. Puis l'important, c'est que ça va être moi, je dis que c'est un investissement générationnel dans l'avenir des Canadiens.
Oui, on a compris ça, mais vous nous aviez dit octobre. Puis là, tout d'un coup, c'est novembre. Pourquoi? Qu'est-ce qui s'est passé?
C'est une question de calendrier parlementaire. Il faut s'assurer.
Ben,
c'est pas, il n'y a rien qui change. On dit, non, mais ce que je vous dis.
Octobre, novembre, c'est pareil.
On est là, puis c'est la meilleure date dans le calendrier parlementaire parce qu'il faut que ça rentre dans le calendrier parlementaire. Il y a ce que le ministre des Finances veut, puis il y a le calendrier parlementaire.
Ils ont un gouvernement qui s'attarde à l'économie, qui s'attarde à la croissance de l'économie, de trouver des opportunités et du potentiel économique, surtout pour nos jeunes, et c'est ce que nous allons continuer de faire. Vous allez voir avec le ministre des Finances qu'est-ce qui justifie le tout, puis je suis très confiant que le ministre des Finances va amener un très bon budget. Yeah, it's coming very soon.
What's the delay?
There's no delay. C'est un défi que j'accepte avec humilité, un peu de trépidation. Il y a beaucoup de dossiers, beaucoup de grands défis, beaucoup de beaux défis et j'ai très hâte d'avancer le travail. Mais il y a beaucoup de défis.
They said October.
They said it's probably October, I think.
So what do you think of the new date? What does that mean?
I think we now know the date. We can plan and work towards it.
What do you do when you don't have a natural dance partner? Get something like the budget passed.
You do what we're supposed to do. You work with everybody. We did it in June. Look, I mean, I think people, you know, we all come here to work together. I just walked through a group of your colleagues out in the front of the building with one of the Conservative MPs, and some of them commented about us walking together. People think we're all enemies. We're not. MPs get along. I have a lot of friends in the other side of the house.
Look already said they're not going to support a 100 deficit, and the NDP also is wary of cutbacks, so you may not have a partner to the project.
Look, I'm always suspect when people say they're not going to support something they haven't seen, so let's wait and see what the budget looks like before they have that discussion.
What's your priority for this fall?
What's my priority for this fall? I think the Prime Minister's laid out his priorities and our agenda, and I support that. I mean, look, I'm the caucus chair, so my priority is to try to keep everybody happy and keep everybody in this room on the same page, which is proving to be quite easy, frankly.
And what are you hearing from caucus so far about how they're feeling, especially after over the summer?
Well, look, I think caucus views on things generally reflect the views of Canadians, but in terms of the political environment around here, I mean, we have a lot of brand new MPs, so we've got people who are new and we've got people who are feeling refreshed because of the election and because of this influx of new MPs, so it's a very positive environment.
Are you planning anything special for Freeland today at the caucus meeting, given that she just announced that, or the Prime Minister announced that she's resigning from the ministry?
I don't talk about what goes on in there, but look, Chrystia, we're going to miss her dearly. Is a dear friend. I've had the great pleasure of working with her for 10 years. She's been a role model, a colleague, and somebody who inspired me and everybody else. So yeah, I'm going to miss her.
How do you think the Prime Minister's handling caucus management? There are some members of caucus who feel like they're finding out about a lot of the decisions that he's making in the news, rather than directly.
I think he's doing a great job. I think the Prime Minister's proving to be a great Prime Minister. He's working really well with caucus. Look, he's new too, remember. So, he's one of the 70 new MPs on our caucus, but I think he's doing great.
Are you learning things in the news as well?
I learn things from you guys every single day. You guys ask me questions every day that I say, well, you know more about this than I do. So.
Premier Ford said he thinks the Prime Minister will support his plan for a tunnel under Highway 401. You're a GTA MP. Is that something you're supportive of? Do you think constituents want that?
I read that. Interesting, yeah.
What do you think of that tunnel? You think it's, I've never talked to you about that. The tunnel idea, the 401.
Well, there's lots of ideas until somebody comes along with a plan on how to pay for it and what it looks like and how long it's going to take. I mean, it's just an idea. So, I mean, it's like talking about something that doesn't exist yet.
Jamie, I'm going to create a
Yeah.
What do you think of the budget being delayed?
Are you talking about the budget that's coming up? How are you going to sell this budget in November?
Well, I think Canadians are going to look at it as an investment in our country, and how are we going to diversify, and how are we going to protect our industries and grow our economy. And I think they'll recognize that we're doing what we have to do.
Look, I would love to have the unanimous consent of parties. Should they wish to debate it in the House, of course, we're happy to have that conversation.
But will you be asking for it when it comes to tabling that legislation?
My only plan when it comes to tabling the legislation is to table the legislation and move forward. To the extent that conversations take place between House leadership, I would invite those conversations.
But are you initiating them at this point to get this passed?
I have not initiated those conversations. I leave discussions around unanimous consent motions to House leadership. But my goal here is to have the expeditious passage of the legislation.
Why? How quickly would you like to see this pass in terms of timing?
Look, as soon as possible. Should parliamentarians wish to engage in a meaningful debate, I think it's important that they're given the opportunity to voice the concerns of their community, and I wouldn't want to shortcut that process. However, if everyone in the House accepts that this is the right path forward, I don't see need to delay unnecessarily when we know hate is such an important issue to address, given the preponderance of hate-oriented violence that we see, not just at our religious institutions, but more broadly throughout our communities.
How are you going to make sure that the bill protects the right to protest? And what if at a community center or a place of worship?
I think there's somebody else you may wish to talk to in a minute. Kira, let me get out of the way and have Chrystia.
Good morning.
What happens in a scenario where a place of worship or a community center is being used for a political event? Well, shouldn't people be able to protest that, or what's your sense? How are you going to protect the right?
Yeah, so thankfully we have guidance from the Supreme Court of Canada on the interplay between hate-oriented crime and the right to free expression. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Parliamentarians, as a matter of privilege, have the right to see these specific provisions before others do in the country. But we think we've done a good job to specifically accommodate Canadians' right to free expression, allowing them to continue to protest on issues that they feel are great importance to the country, without compromising on the essential public safety imperative of addressing hate, not just at our religious institutions, but as it takes place in our communities across the board.
Allez-vous éliminer l'exception religieuse pour les discours haineux? Allez-vous éliminer l'exception religieuse pour les discours haineux?
Alors, j'ai beaucoup de conversations sur cet enjeu avec mes homologues partout notre pays et des autres personnes dans la Chambre des communes. Mais maintenant, c'est pour les députés pour voir la législation dans les premières instances. Après le moment, je mettrai la législation sur la table. C'est possible pour discuter des spécifiques. And I want to make sure I know the specifics. So right now, we're open to conversations that may come forward. The goal with this particular legislation was not necessarily to get into each of the very specific issues, but to address the campaign commitments and then more broadly address crimes of hate that take place. To the extent that the debate evolves through Parliament and we have suggestions that come from different parliamentarians, we want them to have the opportunity to make suggestions on how the legislation can be strengthened.
Are you open to it?
Yeah, absolutely. We're open to whatever, and without being specific to any individual recommendation that may come forward. One of the things that I want to do with the opportunity we have for, frankly, the three different pieces of legislation I expect to bring forward during this fall sitting is to ensure that we can strengthen the legislation by taking perspectives from members from different parties, consider them in good faith, and have them be informed by the expertise that may appear at the committee.
But I guess my question is that the Bloc québécois has been talking about that for
Oui,
years.
pas juste le Bloc, le Québec, les autres provinces aussi.
So the issue is, are you open to it? I mean, it's been a point of debate for quite some time now. Do you think that it's time to abolish that exception for religious reasons?
Je suis ouvert des amendements différents, mais avant de considérer ces amendements spécifiques, je pense que c'est nécessaire pour avoir l'expertise de la personne qui offre le témoignage dans les processus parlementaires pour assurer tous les factors et avant les députés. Just in English, to the extent that we have expertise that informs that debate, we're going to be open to reasonable amendments, but without, I don't want to signal there's some preordained outcome. We do want to consider in good faith potential amendments that may be proposed.
Minister Fraser, about the situation in Gaza, and you just watched independent information from the UN saying it amounts to a genocide. It's not the first person using that term. And former Israeli Prime Minister also used it. But as a lawyer, as a justice minister, what does it take for Canada to use genocide?
Well, look, I want to be careful to ensure that my colleagues who have conduct of the file when it comes to global affairs have an opportunity to speak for the government on this behalf. I do have some background in public international law, and I know that this is not just an emotional question, but also a legal one. My own view, when you see the horrific humanitarian disaster that's playing out in Gaza, is that we have to first focus on delivering aid to the people who need it so desperately. Of course, decoupling that from the hate that we see in Canada at home. My preference when it comes to the crime of genocide is to have that established through a fulsome legal process and to have parties be able to make submissions based on evidence. I'll leave it specifically to my colleagues from Global Affairs to offer commentary on the position. Sorry, the meeting's about to start, guys. I will, you can try to catch me on the way out if you need me.
What do you think of the legislation coming this week that would make it no offense to obstruct or willfully intimidate people going to places of worship or community centers or things like that?
Well, I haven't seen the legislation, and so the question is devil's in details. And I think it's incredibly important that we respect free speech. It's also incredibly important that people are protected, and from if it's willful obstruction and willful intimidation, and it's impeding people from accessing faith services, then that's obviously a problem. So the convention vote just happened on Sunday. I did the Terry Fox run on Sunday, and then I went to the ball game with my 9-year-old. So I was at the convention for Friday and Saturday, but took some time with family on Sunday. And to be determined. I mean, the first thing I just want to say is I do want to thank Carney for her service. She served at all levels, and she is a real tool. It's a real tool to engage in public service. So I think it's a real credit. The party's stronger today than it was when she took over, and so I just want to make that clear. I do think a thank you is warranted, and for my own future, to be determined. I just won a federal election, and I'm focused on the return to Parliament and legislation that we got coming. And the only other thing I'd say is, I said this at the end of July, but I'm not going to make a decision unless I've got a really good team around me, and so that's the biggest question.
When it comes to this bubble zone legislation, there seems to be a desire maybe to move quickly on it. The minister's talking about this as a really present need. Do you think the government should be moving quickly on this, or do you think it should take its time, carefully study it? Like, what do you think might be needed for a piece of legislation when it comes to how parliamentarians consider it?
Well, I think it's fair for the government to want to confront anti-Semitism. Everyone in Parliament wants to confront anti-Semitism here at home, and so that's got to be a critical priority. And the government rightly should move forward with actions to address anti-Semitism here at home. As parliamentarians, we've got to do our work and to review that legislation, to provide that accountability function, and to approve it where we can. And we've got to make sure we strike the appropriate balance between protecting free speech and protecting people's safety and accessing and attending faith services. I think we can do that.
Can I ask you about Gaza and the report yesterday from the United Nations that it's a genocide? What do you think the Canadian government should do with this?
I mean, I've written on this. I wrote to Minister Mann, and I think Canada can do more. Additional sanctions are warranted, and we should be working with like-minded countries, not only, by the way, to recognize Palestine. That's an important symbolic step, and that should be, I think, welcome, the action from this government. But more than that, we've got to make sure we work with like-minded countries to ensure we use
What has been the reaction from your colleagues? I'm sure you brought that up in the past. What is the response? How do you feel? Is there a consensus on that?
I think there's an understanding consensus that we need to do more, and that our actions have to be consistent with our rhetoric. And obviously it's up to the government and the minister to determine what those actions are. I've been as forceful as I can be on behalf of my community.
But the fact that the new body is now saying it amounts to genocide, what does it change today amongst the discussions to have with your colleagues? Do you think it gives you leverage, maybe, with some views you have already expressed?
Well, I wouldn't isolate that particular report, right? That report is from commissioners at the UN, and we've also seen reports from the leading Israeli human rights body that's determined it to be genocide. We've also seen a resolution from the International Association of Genocide Scholars. So I wouldn't just put that in isolation. There have been other reports as well, and I think it's incumbent on the government to take as significant action as we can in partnership with our allies. We obviously have to push and press to say free the hostages and make sure we take action on anti-Semitism here at home. Those have to be priorities. But we also have an obligation, when you look at our commitment to human rights around the world, it's our obligation to act. Thanks. No.
Are you going to run?
As I mentioned down there, I mean, to be determined. And I completely agree, by the way. We just had the convention vote on Sunday, and the right statement, the right message right now is for all members, all Liberal members in Ontario, to say thank you to the leader, to Mark Carney, for her service. She's served at all levels, provincial, municipal, and federal. That's an incredibly important contribution to public service. She should be thanked for it, and the party's stronger as a consequence of her efforts, and we've got to build on those efforts now.
Environmental policy.
Well, so we saw a change in direction on the consumer carbon price in advance of the election. We haven't seen real changes apart from that. There's been a pause on the EV mandate, and there's going to be a review of that. But again, Canadians who are concerned about climate action, I know the Prime Minister is, I am as well, but Canadians should assess the government action on the totality of measures. And we've got to see what the measures are this fall and what's being proposed, not only what measures are going to be dropped potentially and adjusted, but also what new measures are on the table. We've got clean investment tax credits that are not yet online that are going to make a big difference. There are going to be additional projects in the Major Projects Office. We promised, as I say, to make Canada a clean energy superpower. There's a huge effort that we could undertake to really reduce emissions and also contribute to economic growth at the same time. So again, we've got to assess the totality of measures. I know I'm not alone in that. Many of my caucus colleagues feel the same way, and that work's to come.
I'm sorry, I'm turning late. Are you going to be running for Ontario?
I don't know yet. Honestly, we just had the convention vote on Sunday. As I just said, you know, the main message for all Liberal members today is to thank the leader for her service. And I said at the end of July, I'm going to have these conversations with family. But the most important overriding concern for me right now, if I take a step like that, is you know, you got to have a team around you that's going to run together, win together, govern together. So we'll see.
Are you in the
and we're going to make sure that we get a raise.
Monsieur Zuberi, sur le rapport de la commission d'examen externe de l'ONU indépendante, pardon si je n'ai pas la terminologie exacte, qui conclut qu'on a affaire à un génocide à Gaza. Ce n'est pas le premier emploi de ce terme-là officiel. Qu'est-ce que ça vient, est-ce que ça vient vous donner un levier pour parler avec vos collègues de cette question-là, pour peut-être plus d'actions que vous espérez à ce niveau-là?
Je pense que c'est important pour tous les gouvernements au monde de prendre conscience de ce rapport. Et donc, moi, je n'ai pas lu ce rapport à ce moment, mais je vais lire et c'est à peu près une 70aine de pages.
Et pensez-vous qu'on est rendu à appeler la situation qui se passe un génocide?
Je dois lire le rapport et je vais faire ça.
Allez-vous demander au gouvernement de se positionner? Il n'y a pas de gouvernement.
Pas vraiment maintenant, comme j'ai dit. Je n'ai pas lu le rapport moi-même, mais j'ai l'intention de lire.
What do you think about the government's plan this week to introduce some kind of bubble zone legislation? Is that an effort you support, or are there certain considerations you think the government should keep in mind as it moves forward?
I think we have to make sure that everyone in our country is comfortable, is feeling safe, and if there are needs that must be addressed with respect to discrimination, with respect to intimidation, then that is something that's important.
But do you support kind of creating a zone where people cannot protest in front of, say, a place of worship or other buildings? Or does it bring up any free speech concerns for you?
Definitely, we have to consider the charter in all of this. But let's see what the legislation is as it's tabled. So I've yet to see it, and once I personally see it, then I'll be able to maybe give a more detailed response.
Et juste sur la situation Gaza de façon plus vaste, est-ce que vous demandez plus d'action du gouvernement?
Je pense qu'on doit toujours on doit toujours avoir une position qui soutienne les droits humains, la valorisation de la vie et aussi pour éviter les guerres. Donc ça c'est ma position en ce moment.
Est-ce que la position du gouvernement est assez forte en ce sens-là en ce moment?
Je pense qu'on fait des importants gestes, comme par exemple on a dit que l'attaque à Qatar était pas du tout correcte, était contre les valeurs d'entrer dans une négociation. Donc ça c'est un exemple, et on a fait d'autres gestes qui soutiennent les lois internationales. Merci. Thank you.
Quant à moi, les conclusions sont complètement fausses. Merci.
The UN report just said that there was genocide. Are you an agency?
I do not. Yes, I don't agree with that. I think it's frankly insulting to use the word genocide in this context. I think you can be very unhappy with how the war is being prosecuted in Gaza. To use the term genocide is totally unacceptable.
Pourquoi vous dites que c'est
Déjà illégal de prier dans leur ville. Déjà illégal. Et la police doit enforcer les règles municipales déjà existantes, et les municipalités doivent mettre des choses en place pour assurer qu'on ne bloque pas des rues. Ça, c'est sûr.
Do you have concerns?
How close will we to those? I've commented on it, yes. Of course, the comments by the journalists were anti-Semitic tropes, completely unacceptable. I'm very pleased that Radio-Canada has apologized, and I'm very pleased that Radio-Canada has suspended the journalist in his looking into the matter.
Do you have concerns that the bubble legislation has not been introduced yet? Is the government
The government is taking it very seriously, and as Minister Fraser has said, the intention is to deposit it very, very shortly. Thanks, guys.
Vous avez dit que c'est insultant, pouvez-vous juste élaborer?
Oui, qu'est-ce que j'ai dit? C'est que vous pourriez être contre la manière qu'Israël prosecute la guerre en Gaza, mais c'est pas le génocide, et d'utiliser ce terme-là, c'est très insultant. Merci.
Mr. Guilbeault, on the anti-Semitism pipeline, are you going to appoint a replacement for Deborah Lyons?
We're working on it to find a replacement.
In the context of what's happened at Radio-Canada and the escalating number of anti-Semitic incidents, isn't it time to appoint one now?
I mean, it's not something... We're working on it to make it happen as rapidly as possible. Thank you. Merci.
On comprend que votre gouvernement va vouloir faire l'argument de la clause dérogatoire préventive au lieu de la loi 21.
Je vais laisser mon collègue, le ministre de la Justice, vous présenter au moment opportun la position du gouvernement du Canada là-dessus. Ça s'en vient.
Ça se passe bien vos fonctions de leader? Vous entendez bien avec le gouvernement Legault?
Lieutenant. Écoutez, je pense que... on a vu cette semaine, nous avons annoncé le projet Namur, 20 000 logements, dont 10 000 logements hors marché avec la Ville de Montréal, le gouvernement du Québec. Je pense qu'il y a effectivement une bonne relation entre le premier ministre Carney et le premier ministre Legault. J'ai beaucoup de rencontres avec différents membres du gouvernement Legault pour faire avancer le plus possible les différents dossiers. L'objectif, c'est d'être au service de notre population et c'est ça sur quoi on travaille jour après jour. Merci.
On the Radio-Canada reporter, does CBC need to fire her, or Radio-Canada need to fire her?
Obviously, as it's not the role of the government to dictate what the public broadcaster should do. You saw my statement on that. We'll leave it to Radio-Canada CBC to decide how best and what is the most appropriate measures to take.
Do they need to publicly say that they like what happened and how it's not going to happen again?
There was a public statement by Radio-Canada.
They did the statement, but like in terms of how this process happened, and do they need to be more clear with the public on like?
I'll leave it to Radio-Canada CBC to make any statement they feel is appropriate in terms of next step. We've made our statement on that issue.
And on Deborah Lyons, I know you said it's just on Deborah Lyons, the replacement for Deborah Lyons, the anti-Semitism runway. You said as soon as possible, but what does that mean? Is that months? Is that weeks?
Working on it to make it happen as soon as possible.
We've said C2 is a bill that we will work with the opposition to strengthen along the way through the committee process. So over the next, as you know, it's been debated. It was debated yesterday. It'll be debated today. We will continue to work with opposition to strengthen the bill, and we're open as a government to do that and do it in collaboration to ensure that our borders are safer.
Minister, if you want to be serious about bail reform, will you have to build more jails? Is there a capacity issue right now?
Well, as you know, the remand facilities are primarily the responsibility of the provinces. Federal correctional facilities are not used in general terms as remand facilities, so that is a question that probably should be posed to the provinces.
Is the bubble zone by law, for lack of a better term for it, is that still expected this week? And how
I will let Minister Fraser speak to that when he comes there.
You say the amnesty is going to be extended for guns for how long?
More details will be forthcoming, but on the bubble legislation, let me just say that the recent reports, and I've been meeting with many members of the Jewish community across Canada for the last over the summer, and it's very troubling. The increased levels of anti-Semitism is deeply troubling, and it's something that all Canadians are worried about. We will take decisive steps to ensure that the safety and security of the Jewish community is strengthened and our laws are consistent to protect them.
On the buyback program, who's going to collect guns in Ontario? There is no deal yet as far as we know. How are guns going to be collected in the province?
More information will be forthcoming as we announce the program. I'm very confident that we will have collection facilities available in Ontario. We will have police of jurisdiction. Many of them have already signed on. So I'm very confident that we will have a robust collection ability to collect guns in
Did the
Ontario.
OPP refuse to participate in the program?
Well, the OPP has indicated that they will not participate directly. As you know, they represent 26% of the overall policing in Ontario. This doesn't mean that we can't continue with the gun buyback
Why are
program.
you sticking with this program?
This will be the last question.
Why are you sticking with this program? Why move it to the next stage when it comes to individual firearms owners?
So, if you recall, we had an election in April where, as part of our mandate, as part of our platform, this was on the platform, this was repeated as part of the throne speech. So this is very much something that we committed to and we will follow through on. Thank you.
Chris, can I ask you about the Ontario Liberal Party, just Ontario Liberals we're asking in general?
Yes.
What do you think that the Ontario Liberal Party needs to do vis-a-vis leadership?
Well, clearly the message hasn't resonated in the last few elections. We need a leader to step up. We'll see what that process looks like, but the election should be sobering for the Ontario Party. Barely get party status. So whoever the next leader will be needs to look at that, needs to understand why Doug Ford is popular, how he resonates with Ontarians, and we need to match that with bold ideas and make Ontarians' lives easier.
Do you see some potential candidates, the Mayor of Barrie?
Yeah, do you see some leaders, that there's some leaders out there that it's going to be a contested fight?
It's going to be contested. I know some people will step up. We'll see what the process looks like, and I'm sure there's those who are waiting to see what that process looks like moving forward before they step up. I look forward to a vigorous leadership debate, and again, hopefully we can get someone that comes forward and can speak to what Ontarians are looking for and fill that leadership void that's existed in the party for far too long.
On a separate note, the American ambassador said last night that they were hoping for a bigger deal than just Kuzma, but that doesn't seem possible at the moment. I'm just trying to get your thoughts on that.
Oh, well, I'm sure Minister LeBlanc can speak to that better than I. If they're looking for a bigger deal, that's great. We want to get back to business, but I'll leave that with Dominic.
What about just why that might not be?
Sorry, what's it?
He didn't elaborate on why that's not possible at the moment.
He would be in a better position than I to guess what that would be.
On the Ontario stuff, what do you think of your buddy Nate for as a potential candidate? I'm not sure what the answer is right now.
I think right now is time to thank Bonnie for her service, and we'll wait to see what how the process unfolds before we start determining.
I agree with that. I completely agree with that.
Can I just ask you about the Ontario Liberal Party? Obviously change, you're well connected with that party. Give me your sense of what does the party need to do in terms of resolving this leadership, quick, early? What do you got some thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think it needs to go back to its roots, reconnect with the base, and figure out where Ontarians want to go. There are a lot of big issues in Ontario, and not all people agree with the approach Doug Ford's taking. When it comes to education, to children, to the cost of living, there's a lot of work the provincial government can do. And I think the Liberal Party can play a massive role in reshaping the future of Ontario.
Do you see some leadership, a good suite of potential leadership
I think
candidates?
we'll have several people step forward. I think there's a lot of time. We've got easily, a year before we have to call, a leadership convention, maybe a year and a half. I think the party needs to take a step back, rethink what it stands for. And reconnect with people in the past, people like Greg Stabera, Dalton McGuinty, folks who helped rebuild the party back in the 90s and early 2000s and go from there.
Any chance you might want to run, should you be asked?
I have a big job here in the federal government. There's a lot of work to do, so I'm committed to the people of Scarborough-Woburn.
Excellent. Now, how is that new riding?
It's wonderful.
Okay, great.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks very much.
On either side, and certainly Bonnie Crombie attempted to do that, but it's politics, and people want someone who's disciplined, hardworking, and who cares about the service that they provide for others. And I think that's what they're looking for. Ontarians really want a leader who can inspire them and unite them.
And who is that person?
Well, we have a few, don't we? There's a number of them, and I keep bumping into them these days. We'll soon see. We'll soon see. It'll be, it's an opportunity yet again for the party to find itself. I'm looking forward to it. Actually, we had an in-camera meeting yesterday, and we talked about 5 studies. We're going to be prioritizing them this week and go through them. But it's all about, ensuring that we have the proper direction for assessing the culture of the Defense Department and ensuring that we inspire and attract more to come to it. But no, there's a whole industrial strategy around defense as well. It's an economic imperative as well as a sovereignty imperative. So we're very much working in unity in this particular instance. So I'm looking forward to having a collaborative effort with the opposition in terms of advancing our defense. Thank you. Cheers.
Can I ask you about the Ontario Liberal Party? What do you think the issues are as it thinks about a new leader for that group?
Oh, gosh.
I called you Minister Gould again.
Oh.
Sorry. Karina, good to chat with you.
Thanks, David. Look, I mean, I think there's a lot of issues right now. I mean, first and foremost, I mean, so many of the tariff-affected sectors are in Ontario. I mean, if we think about steel, we think about auto parts. I mean, these are huge impacts and really kind of the driver of the Ontario economy. But of course, there's also the social infrastructure needs tending to, whether that's healthcare or education, childcare. I mean, there are some really big issues that the Ontario Liberal Party needs to be thinking about as they're moving forward in this process, and there's a lot of rebuilding that has to happen at the party level as well.
Do you want to be part of that?
I am very focused. I am very focused on my work here at the federal level. So
Have
thank
you ruled it out?
Thank you.
Is it an option? Like, is it something you're thinking
Can
about?
I just ask you, Premier Eby is in town today. He's going to meet with the Prime Minister. What do you think Premier Eby's priorities ought to be as he meets with the PM?
Well, I think there's a lot we can do together. We've got these newly announced big projects that are primarily in British Columbia, so I think that's a good start. And we have a pretty good working relationship, but I think our Attorney General over there is talking about all the stuff that we're doing with regards to justice, and I think there's some stuff that the province has to do as well, so I think we need to partner up on that.
So beyond that major project, the justice agenda is something that there's some work he needs to do as well.
Sure, and all of us deal with housing and affordability, so that's a constant thing for all of us. Good to see you.
Premier Eby's in town today. He's going to meet with the Prime Minister. What do you think the Premier's priorities ought to be for BC as he meets with the Prime Minister? Law and order, for example?
Law and order, creating jobs, and prosperity for all its citizens. Those are the values that we also share with them, and he will have my support, at least on those issues.
I know your riding's a long way from the North Coast, but how do you think British Columbians are reacting to big LNG projects?
I think LNG is going to be well accepted because it's going to create a lot of jobs and it's going to create a lot of cash into the economy, which is needed at this time.
That's great. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Can you give us an update on the F-35 review?
Still under review.
Okay, and where are the negotiations at? Or what can you tell us about it?
I can't get into it. Canada will make a decision based on its needs, and we'll let you know when that happens.
And how about the submarines? Where is Canada at?
We're moving quickly on submarines, and there's lots of good news. We just announced we down-selected 2 countries, and we're looking forward to moving forward with those countries. Thank you.
The F-35s, I'm sure
You said you hate question period. Why is that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, listen. My challenge is not with accountability. I love accountability. My challenge is that, both the questions and the answers follow a pattern, a routine, where very little new information is gleaned, and often it's bad faith conversations.
How do you think it should be fixed?
Well, I really like what we do in the evening in what we call the late show, where question period is revised if people feel like they're not satisfied with the answer. And the question comes back in 4-minute form, which provides more detail and context, and the answer comes back in 4-minute form. Then there's a round of follow-up with 2 minutes and then 2 minutes. I think it would be really interesting to play with that during regular question period at least once a week, but that's something I'd have to talk to all sorts of other people about. Okay? No, I don't. I mean, I understand some of the challenges that have been brought up, but realistically, because it will take a decade before everybody gets new driver's licenses, it won't resolve any problems. So it feels like it's adding bureaucracy on top of bureaucracy. And the driver's license is to drive. And I think we try to make it do too many things, frankly.
Excuse me, on QP, I missed totally the discussion. What is it you're proposing exactly?
Oh, yeah, I think proposal would even be a little bit strong at this point. But what I suggested was there are other models of government accountability, including at the end of a regular sitting day. There's something that we colloquially call the late show, where if somebody comes in and they're not satisfied with an answer in QP, there's a chance to have the government give a more robust response. So the form that takes is 4 minutes of a question from the opposition, 4-minute response, and then 2-minute follow-up question and 2-minute follow-up response. And in my experience, you get a much more robust and thoughtful conversation than 35 seconds
And
each
have
way.
you proposed that to someone in the system to have that?
Just to the air. Like, I haven't actually had the conversation with anybody specifically. I've put it on Twitter a few times. But I think it would be a good idea. I think government accountability is vitally important. I think it's one of the strengths of our Westminster system. I think, Joe Biden and the decline would have been much more apparent under a Westminster system. We should have accountability, but I think we've got to play with the form to make sure we're getting true accountability.
I'm sorry, you're new to this place, right?
That's right, yeah.
So
Yeah.
is that something that you came up with seeing what is happening here, or something you thought about?
Yeah, no, trust me, it's a reaction to the times. Like, sometimes you sit there and you're like, we're adults, and I think Canadians expect better of us, and I want to do better. And I think we need solid, serious conversations because we are in solid, serious times. So let's see if we can't do better. Yeah.
People more using it for social media clips than
Oh,
actual.
absolutely. I mean, you see people looking at cameras more than each other. And in a committee setting, that's very weird, right? But look, I think that realistically, there are problems with any system, but I do think we should have a conversation as parliamentarians as to whether this system is serving Canadians, because, as I said, we're in it. This is a dangerous world. This is a world that requires complex answers to complex solutions, and I'm not sure our current methods of accountability are serving us as well as we need them to.
What do you think the changes that Alberta was making yesterday to the industrial carbon pricing system? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Not any that.
Are you concerned about it at all?
Well, not any that I can share at this time. It's certainly something that we're all tracking pretty carefully. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks very much.
The U.S. ambassador said yesterday that the U.S. was after a bigger trade deal, a bigger deal rather than the smaller deals like the Prime Minister has signaled. What's your reaction to this?
Well, I think, what we've proposed is an economic and security partnership, understanding the deep relationship we have on the trade issue. We've been trading with each other for more than a century. And in fact, we're the two largest trading partners. It is sad, I would say, that our largest trading partner turned its back on Canada, which has led to us having to reassess how we're going to build the economy of the future. That's what, when I said in the budget, for example, this is going to be a generational investment in our collective future. It's because when you have your largest trading partner turning its back on you, you have to reinvent the Canadian economy. So we're going back to a bit like we did in 1945, where we need to diversify our industry, diversify our economy, diversify our markets. So I'd say Canada has always been there. We've been there during the war when it came to aluminium. We've been there during the war when it came to steel. We've been there during the war when it came to work together with American friends and allies. So Canada has always been at the center of this industrial landscape that you have in North America. But obviously, when someone turns its back, you have to find ways to strengthen the Canadian economy, look at new markets, look at new industries.
What do you think is the difference, Minister, if the ambassador is talking about we want a big deal, but you've got Minister LeBlanc and the Prime Minister saying, look, the best we can hope for is smaller sectoral deals. Why do you think there's that difference?
Well, I think what the Prime Minister has been talking about is an economic and security partnership, which in my view encompasses the essence of our relationship, first on the economic front, but also on the security front. And we've been, at least you've seen the Prime Minister, we've been engaging very actively with the U.S. administration since the beginning. And Canada has always been, I would say, proactive, forthcoming, positive in how we engage. We had to respond, when you have your largest trading partner which imposed tariff on our steel industry, on our auto sector, obviously, you would expect a country like Canada, a G7 country, to respond to that. At the same time, we will always engage in discussion with our colleagues, and I think Minister LeBlanc is doing a great job in that. But also, when we're looking at the next federal budget, you would expect that a lot of the costs that Canada to carry is directly related to the trade war that has been imposed on Canada. We didn't choose, but it's been imposed on us. Look at the sectorial support we had to do for workers, look at what we have to do for industry. And at the same time now, we said we need to build the Canada of the 21st century. That's why we said we're going to separate the expenses from the investments, because now is the time to invest, like we did after 1945, to modernize Canada, make sure that we buy Canadian, we build infrastructure, we build homes. The kind of investments we're going to do now is what's going to bring prosperity to Canada for the 21st century.
Also on the US, today we've got the Federal Reserve decision. Trump he's tried to fire people on the board. He's tried to install his own candidates. I mean, do they have an independent central bank in Canada, and isn't that question out there just bad for the world economy?
I'll speak for Canada in the sense that what we've seen this morning is the rate going to 2.5%. I think that's good news for Canada. It's good news for consumers. It's good news for anyone who has a mortgage or is in the real estate, in Canada with respect to mortgage prices. So I think that's good news that we see the Bank of Canada lowering the rate. At the same time, we need to do more. That's why you'll see, like I said, in the next federal budget, we'll be ambitious in our investment and we'll be rigorous in our expenses, because what I've been explaining and Canadians understand very easily is that we need to spend less so that we have more money then to be able to invest in the type of things that will make us more resilient.
Monsieur Champagne, sur le taux directeur, si vous voulez être RDI cet après-midi, ça prend une réponse en français sur le taux directeur.
Je vais revenir.
Merci.
Vous voyez l'influence que vous avez. Vous voyez l'influence que vous avez.
C'est parfait. On
va faire attendre ceux qui m'attendent en bas. Pour,
mais facile en plus.
Mais je pense qu'on a une bonne nouvelle. La Banque du Canada aujourd'hui qui a réduit ses taux à 2,5 %. C'est une bonne nouvelle pour les consommateurs. C'est une bonne nouvelle pour les Canadiens. C'est une bonne nouvelle aussi pour le marché hypothécaire. Alors, certainement, ça, c'est ce que la Banque du Canada a fait. Nous, comme je l'ai dit, parce qu'on a annoncé la date du budget hier, ce qu'on va faire de notre côté au niveau du budget, c'est être ambitieux dans nos investissements puis être rigoureux dans nos dépenses. Je pense que je l'ai dit souvent, les Canadiens se serrent la ceinture depuis déjà un bon bout de temps, donc c'est normal qu'on le fasse au niveau fédéral pour se laisser de l'espace, de la capacité fiscale d'investir dans nos infrastructures, dans le logement, dans des grands projets nationaux qui vont créer des emplois, créer de la richesse collective. Ce qu'il faut faire, c'est se donner un plan générationnel d'investissement, puis c'est ça qu'on va proposer aux Canadiens dans le budget.
What about the
Merci.
consultation?
Merci.
As a transport minister, do you think that the Highway 401 should be added to the major projects list?
I have yet to get immersed in the various issues in the transport department, but I will obviously be looking at that.
Because Premier Doug Ford said that's something he believes Mark Carney will add. Why do you think the Premier believes that?
I have no idea. I have not even had the chance to talk about it. But let's just say this, though. As transport minister, I believe transportation in this country is essential and should be made more fluid, and that's certainly going to be my philosophy.
And would be a national building project, perhaps?
I did not say that. I am going to look into that.
What's being done to prepare for the renegotiation of CUSMA? The U.S. is sort of... And what about the U.S. ambassador's comments that they were really looking for a bigger deal rather than a small deal?
Same thing.
Anything you can say on the U.S.?
Well, we have a minister who's dedicated to that very issue, and I'm sure he'll be talking to you. Thank you.
LNG and the BC. Some First Nations are opposed to LNG projects. There's multiple projects now approved. So what do you have to say to First Nations groups opposed to the projects out west? On the LNG projects out west.
Which LNG projects are you mean?
There's now Kissimmee, and then there's the Kitimat one, and then there's one part of the major project. So there's 3 LNG projects out west.
Yeah.
So
well, LNG2 was previously approved at BC and federal levels. And the new project that's Nishka-led is obviously coming forward at this stage. As a government, we're absolutely committed to working with First Nations and ensuring that that duty to consult is upheld. Certainly, as someone from BC, I want to make sure we're doing everything we can in terms of engaging people across our province and making sure we're doing the right thing.
What about their concerns for the environment?
Well, absolutely. I think, especially in BC, we all have environment and climate concerns are top of mind. And it's really about being best in class with everything that we do. We have to decarbonize, reduce the impact on environment and climate. We have an economy to grow right now, but we have to be very mindful of ensuring that we are the best in the world at what we do. And when we are producing products that are in transition to net zero, that we are the leaders in the world in terms of producing those. But certainly we're on a pathway to net zero. That's absolutely critical for our homeland and our world. Thank you.
With the canola producers yesterday, and just what we can expect going forward.
Look, I think it's important that we sit down with the producers, of course, the sector. Premier Mill was there, and we had a good conversation on, what more we can do. A few weeks ago, we sat down again with Premier Mill. Of course, there's touch base from their trip to China, what came out of that, and further engagement, what we'll be doing in the coming months, at the ministerial level. I was invited to go to China as well by my counterpart, and so we're strongly considering that.
And Premier Mill previously talked about wanting to get rid of those EV tariffs as part of China's justification for applying their own tariffs here. Is there movement on that end? Is there a way to figure out a solution to this without getting rid of those tariffs?
So on the EV surtaxes, the Minister of Finance is leading a review on that. It's active and it's open, and so premiers are feeding their feedback into that, and so I'll let Finance speak on that, but thank you so much.
Mr. Blair, can we ask you, do you think that the Highway 401 tunnel should be made into a national major project?
I think there are obviously discussions we'll have around transportation, but that exact project, I don't have a particular position.
Premier Ford said that he believes that the Prime Minister will put it on the list as a major project. Do you think it's nation building enough to be put on that list?
Well, I think transportation, particularly in large urban areas, is a critical infrastructure issue. But with respect to that particular project, I'll leave that to the discussions between the Transport Minister and the Premier.
And how about any diplomatic appointments? Should we be expecting to see you in the House for the entire term, or what's on the horizon for
Right
you?
now, I'm focused entirely on working and serving my community and this government.
Bien général, mais le taux directeur qui a diminué de 25 points, qu'est-ce que ça fait pour les Canadiens qui, dans un contexte économique, tout ça?
Bien, l'avantage d'une baisse d'un taux directeur, c'est que ça aide beaucoup de Canadiens, y compris évidemment ceux qui ont des hypothèques, mais aussi les entreprises qui doivent emprunter dans un contexte mondial et national où les entreprises font face à des sérieux défis, d'incertitudes. Alors je pense que c'est une très bonne nouvelle à la fois pour les consommateurs et les propriétaires de maisons, dont on parle beaucoup, mais aussi pour les entreprises qui ont besoin d'un petit coup de pouce.
Aujourd'hui, c'est la date limite pour que le gouvernement dépose ses arguments pour la loi 21 devant la Cour suprême. Comment la position de votre gouvernement là-dessus? Comment est-ce qu'on peut s'attendre à des nouveautés par rapport à la position?
Bien, il y a des choses déjà connues, il y a des choses qu'on va connaître bientôt. Donc, le gouvernement canadien a déjà annoncé son intention de participer au processus judiciaire, tout comme une quarantaine d'autres organisations vont le faire aussi. Maintenant, le contenu exact de cette participation va être connu effectivement bientôt.
Aux États-Unis, aujourd'hui, nous avons aussi une décision pour la Réserve fédérale. M. Trump avait des malmons pour Jerome Powell. Est-ce que les États-Unis avaient encore une banque centrale indépendante?
Bien, c'est très dommage ce que M. Trump fait aux États-Unis en matière de politique monétaire. Moi, je suis économiste de formation. J'ai enseigné l'économie durant presque 30 ans. Et s'il y a une mauvaise chose qu'on peut faire pour la croissance économique et la confiance dans les institutions, c'est de miner la crédibilité d'une banque centrale. La bonne nouvelle, c'est qu'au Canada, nous fonctionnons différemment, que la Banque centrale canadienne est indépendante, contrairement malheureusement à ce qui se passe aux États-Unis.
Parfait.
Merci.